Centralization itself is not evil.
Right.
But the path of no return into centralization is likely to result in evil.
Okay.
Hence, we want to prevent that. Want a path so that they will be fearful that if they do something shady, that we always have a way out. Blockchain, cryptocurrency are sort of things like that. An alternative route that people can always go to. So they'll do the incentive align things for us and serve us better. I'm Martinet Lee, co-founder of Zircuit. Zircuit, in short, is a zero-knowledge rollup with the additional capability of protecting the whole ecosystem. It scans all the transactions that happens on the L2 and then use AI to classify whether this is malicious or not. The way that I would describe this to the layman, this is an L2 with antivirus. I think within 3 months, we prevented 2.2 million of phishing-related transactions.
Wow.
So we've seen protocols that have very sophisticated developers, and they push out a very small update. Actually, that thing touches the whole protocol, but you will not have the budget for auditing the whole protocol again. We help people post-deployment, and it's always there protecting people, users, protocols. This is my way of thinking how to promote decentralization as well. Because you need to provide them normal people, grandmas, institutions, guardrails, so that they're willing to try this out. And then once they're familiar with all these things, then they may decide to go fully decentralized. I come from an educational background. I know that these initial steps are very, very important.
I see.
You need to make them feel safe so that they take the initial step.
Welcome back to 90 Seconds to Crypto, where we help off-chain Luddites become on-chain sovereigns. Every week here, we share the tools and mindsets to helping you unlock your digital sovereignty. Today, I am here with my good friend, Martinet, who is co-founder now from Zircuit. Martinet, would you like to make a brief introduction of yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Martinet Lee. So I'm co-founder of Zircuit and also head of developer relations for Quantstamp. Used to be a security auditor. At the side, I also host East Taipei and teach a lecture at the university, top engineering university here in Taiwan called GUD. So yeah, very nice to be here, and then thank you for having me.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing your time here with me and with us today. Where are we right now, Martinet?
We are in Taoyuan, Taiwan. So this is, like an outlet.
Yeah, we're at the high-speed rail station. We're at the outlet that's next to the high-speed rail station in Taoyuan. Fun fact: I used to teach English here back in 2019 when I first moved to Taiwan.
Nice. So
this was like
a memory then.
This is like my hood. Yeah. So yeah, maybe let's start off with how you got started in crypto. What's your journey in crypto like, and how did you end up at Zircuit?
It was pretty simple. I was doing hardware engineering, electronic engineering.
Like hardware wallets?
No, not hardware wallets. So electronics engineering, doing FPGA, doing IC design, all that kind of stuff. But I specialize in cryptography, secure implementation of these cryptographic implementations, and then
deep in the tech.
Yes, like the nerdy stuff. And then one day we have cooperation with CS professor, and his students was basically presenting Bitcoin. I was like, wait a second, this makes so much sense.
What year was this?
This is probably 2017.
2017.
Yeah,
okay.
Also around the time of ICO, and obviously that's why people were interested, and I actually didn't hear about that before, and but people obviously heard about that, presented it as a research topic. I found it interesting, so I got into the space and basically ditched completely my electronics engineering degree. I'm like, fuck that, and I'm going to Waterloo.
It just made sense right from the get-go.
Yeah. And so I went to Waterloo to study computer science, and
this is your master's, I guess?
Yes, my second master actually. So the first one is in electronics engineering. Basically, I went there and I was all in mode and for blockchain already. So every course that I had, I was like, okay, this is formal verification. My final project is gonna be about formal verifications application on blockchain.
Okay.
And all that, that's how it works. Whatever course that we had, or I had, I turned it into blockchain related.
Wow.
And then 2019, I had pleasure and honor to join Quantstamp. It just naturally matches because like security and then blockchain, that is literally my background.
Right, right.
So we
Just fit in
hit it
right,
off
fit in like a glove.
So like I started there like January 2019 and then basically never left. Zircuit is actually one of the projects that Quantstamp sort of like incubated and then spin off.
When was a spin-off?
I would say roughly 3 years. Like I'm very bad at like dates, but like I would say roughly 3 years.
2022. So before we jump into Zircuit, we could talk a ton about that. What about crypto made sense to you?
First of all, it is the privacy part.
The privacy part, okay, okay.
Unfortunately,
we like that on this channel.
Hey, unfortunately, right now we're still on the way for that, especially with blockchain. Somehow people think like transparency is everything. Like, nah, not really.
Transparency for public institutions and governments, that's good.
Those make sense,
Yeah,
for sure.
but
Those
for
make sense.
individuals, yeah, privacy is needed.
Privacy is needed for sure. I think that is honestly what made sense for me. I think for me, AI is the tech for centralization. To avoid we go to like the dystopian future, we need some other forces that basically tell them like, hey, not to do shady stuff or we will go elsewhere. Right. And basically like blockchain, cryptocurrency are sort of things like that. An alternative route that people can always like go to. So it's a threat to the centralization so that they don't do bad shit.
Right, right.
And so that's kind of like what makes sense to me. I do want to mention, I'm not saying that centralization is bad.
Yeah.
The centralization oftentimes brings a lot more efficiency, a lot more usability, and also protection for normal people as well.
Right.
And so like on these side, we need to acknowledge that centralization itself is not evil.
Right.
But the path of no return into centralization is likely to result in evil.
Okay.
Hence, we want to prevent that. We always want a path so that they will be fearful that if they do something shady when they are centralized, then we always have a way out. If there's always a way out, then they won't do bad things because they know that we're gonna go.
Right, right.
And so they'll do the incentive align things for us and hence serve us better. And then they'll tell people like, hey, centralization is better. Yes and no.
So like the ability to fork away is key.
It is for me, yeah. Amazing. But centralization is not evil. I do want to stress that. Like, I think people in crypto oftentimes confuse the two. They think like, oh, decentralization is great, hence centralization is evil. Not really.
Full decentralization would be anarchy, and like that doesn't really work. Yeah. You need some aspect of like organization and coordination, which sometimes requires a bit of centralization. Yeah. Okay, so I'm switching over to the left side because my arm is tired. I forgot my fucking selfie stick today. So
I'll need to massage him later.
Yeah. So we were talking about Zircuit. Why don't you tell the audience what Zircuit is? Because I'm not sure either.
Yeah. Of course. So Zircuit, short and short, is a zero-knowledge rollup. However, with the additional capability of protecting the whole ecosystem. Basically, it scans all the transactions that happens on the L2 and then use AI to like classify whether this is malicious or not. A couple machine learning models that basically like look at all the transactions. So we simulate the transaction first, and then like there's transaction traces, there's like assets that it touched, like how much it moved, and then like what protocol it touched, etc. All these kind of like packs, and then feed it into the machine learning algorithm basically to classify. And as technical kind of like audience may know, like machine learning, these things, the classic problem of it is classification, right? Okay. It's like 1 or 0, like good or bad, is it dog or cat? Right. This is the classic machine learning kind of like thing. It's not a new technology, but we are using it for differentiating malicious transactions, basically.
We're gonna get a bit technical here. Yeah. Does every node on the network have like this AI thing that's running in the node to like scan all the transaction, basically?
Every node that needs to run the machine learning, they would need to have it. We do have multiple nodes, as far as I know, but those are more for like, parallelization, etc., kind of like for performance, so that we still, even though we scan all the transaction, we still stay under like 2 seconds per block, etc. These kind of like promises.
So all the promises and performance gains of a layer 2 scaling solution. Yeah. So fast transaction, cheap costs, but additional security.
Additional security. And then kind of like the way that I would describe this to the laymen are, this is basically an L2 with antivirus.
Oh, okay, that's a good meme.
Yeah,
I think.
think about it. Like you like antivirus when you're like browsing normal like websites, like you don't care. Like it doesn't tell you like what is happening. Like it is just there protecting you.
Yeah.
But when you go to those suspicious websites, I don't know which website do you watch, but those websites, and then prompt like some ads, and then you click into it, and then sometimes the antivirus will come out like, hey, this one is malicious. We have stopped it for you. And so this is kind of like the main thing for Zircuit. Like if you think about a lot of like the unencrypted Twitter, you see a lot of like, hey, XXX protocol, your protocol just got hacked for 30 something minutes. It is impressive that they can detect that.
Yeah.
But wouldn't it be nicer for them to be able to prevent that? Like they can detect that really fast, but like literally just do it before, and that is what Zircuit does. And on top of that, we can also prevent phishing as well, not only just hacks.
Really?
Obviously, this part comes with like tags or like some other knowledge bases, but I think this is a more recent functionality that we rolled out. I think within 3 months, like we prevented 2.2 million of phishing, like related transactions.
Wow,
So,
wow.
Yeah.
When I think of phishing, I think of clicking into like a bad website that directs me to like sign some malicious transaction. Like I think that I'm moving my assets over to this wallet, but it's actually moving it into an attacker's wallet.
Yeah.
And yet the Zircuit node or network will detect these transactions and say like, nope, we're not going to let this happen.
Yeah, basically that is it. And the way that it does this, I believe it's on the reputation side. So this is another thing aside from transaction simulation. There's also address, reputation, all that, those kind of stuff can be baked into it.
Right.
And then this is one of them. As a user, how do you lose your money? One, well, yes, C-phrase scams, but that is really hard. That's literally the private key and all that. I don't think there's a way to really protect. There is, funny enough, but like we haven't done that yet.
Okay.
But the other stuff are like, okay, you deposit your funds into a protocol, the protocol gets hacked. And so Zircuit helps for that because we do the transaction simulation, we know what is a hack and what is not a hack. That is one. The other thing is phishing. So like we focus on these two first, and they are like quite technically challenging as well. There's always new stuff, like new attack vectors and all that.
Hard to like keep staying on top of like the latest attacks and be ahead of the scammers and hackers.
Yeah. And luckily, a lot of our people are from Quantstamp, like security auditors.
True, yeah, it's in your blood.
It is in our blood. Like literally the reason we have Zircuit is we've seen protocols that have very sophisticated developers, they still get attacked. And they push out like a very small update. They even get audited, not by us.
Yeah.
But it's natural because like sometimes you have a small update, but actually that thing touches the whole protocol, but you will not have the budget for auditing the whole protocol again.
Right.
It's kind of natural in that. And so almost like if you think about the model, it is sort of unsolvable if you only rely on security auditing.
Right.
I'm not saying that's not helpful. It is very helpful. But there is additional stuff that we can do, which is Zircuit, which is we help people like post deployment, and it's always there kind of like protecting people, users, protocols, and all that.
The L2 with antivirus.
Yes, sir.
Why not use it? Why not build on it? Okay, back to my right arm because my left arm is tired. You wanted to share a little something about Zircuit. You guys are building a new product or teasing a new product, so.
Yeah, basically what Zircuit is, like as you have understood, is very secure layer 2 that protects the ecosystem, but we're also evolving beyond that. How we consider Zircuit L2 itself is the secure layer of finance. Like you need this layer that helps protect the ecosystem on top, and then the user that are using the L2, like from phishing and all that. But after that, you want applications, etc., to abstract a lot of like the complexity away. They shouldn't be even think about Zircuit or chains. There's a couple different products that we are pushing out and have pushed out. There's GUD Trading Engine, which is basically a cross-chain swap. It's an aggregator of intent protocol, basically.
Okay.
And that one just like helps user to swap from any chain to any chain, from any token to any token, whatever the intent protocol can support. That is pretty interesting. It has been kind of like tested pretty smoothly.
So it's a Zircuit incubated application
It is
deployed on Zircuit.
deploy on Zircuit, Arbitrum, Base,
Right,
Optimism.
because it's cross-chain.
Because it's cross-chain, exactly.
matter.
Doesn't matter. And then obviously right now users still need to like specify like chains and tokens. Like I think, exactly. And what I want to do like later is have user just specify like the asset they want to buy, and that's all. Right. And they don't need to specify the chain. And so those assets should go to whichever chains that actually gives the user most utility. Utility in a lot of different sense. It could be yield. It could be security. If you're thinking from the first principle or like from the angle of the user, then those are the things that they want. They don't want optimism, they don't want Zircuit, they don't want a specific chain, unless they are like religious. But I don't think we are. I think we're like, most of the users are very rational, yield chasers, like all that. They want their asset to have good yield, but also very secure.
Right.
That's what we want to provide, basically. GUD Trading Engine itself is one such thing. And then in a month or so, we're gonna push out like a cross-chain yield aggregator.
Wow.
And this cross-chain yield aggregator basically gonna...
One second, before you go into it, for the lay user, what the fuck does that mean, cross-chain yield aggregator? I'm talking to my friend Steve here, who thinks crypto is just too much jargon. What does that mean, actually, at base level?
All right. So there are so many blockchains or so many chains, right? Layer 2, whatever, all that stuff. Well, let's start from yield aggregator. What is yield aggregator? Yield is like the percentage that you gain from your money, right? And so there are different places that you can earn money on the blockchain. So there's like, let's say Aave, Compound. Their interest rate may differ and sometimes change. And so you want to always switch to the highest one, obviously.
Of course, rationally speaking.
But also rationally speaking, you do not have the time to do so. So you delegate that to someone that can help operate. And that is kind of like a yield aggregator, basically, because they aggregate the yield together. They help you allocate the assets to the appropriate protocol. They help you due diligence on how secure the underlying protocol are, etc.
So it's like having an on-chain portfolio manager that chases yield.
Basically, that is the yield aggregator. Yes, that's correct. And so the classic one is GUD.Finance. For all the DeFi folks there, GUD.Finance is awesome. Shout out to those guys, like, Andre Cronje, right? However, yield aggregator, like, they're mostly in one chain. The problem then for the user, again, becomes, okay, which chain do I go to? And then I deposit into that specific vault of the yield aggregator. Then they can optimize it for me on that chain. But there's so many chains.
Which, just saying that, you're going through at least like two different interfaces, right? Like there's the bridge and then the DeFi app.
Yeah, exactly. And then like also whether the bridge is like actually legit or not, that's always a fear, right? So all those kind of things are still very, very much complicated and getting more and more complicated actually, since we have more and more L2s. It's a dream come true from the adoption or like, great, everyone's building in blockchain, but also like a nightmare come true from the user perspective. And so what we do is also extract that away, and user should be able to deposit from any chain that we support. Then they can gain yield from any chain that we support, basically. And they don't need to think about it. Like they have asset in Base, they just deposit in Base.
Right.
And it goes to the same yield aggregator, basically. Right. And the nice thing of this, and I'm very proud of this, is we did it in kind of like a, I would say, semi-decentralized way. So underlying, it's decentralized.
Okay.
Using layer 0.
Okay.
When I say semi, it's because you need an operator to decide where the funds go.
Right.
But it is decentralized in the way that they cannot take the money out.
Right.
This is very important.
Yeah.
Like the code basically dictates that, hey, like these are the places that the funds can go. It is centralized in the way that that operator dictates where the money goes, etc. but it cannot go outside and they cannot take it away unless, there's like a centralized strategy, whatever, right? But you can all see that. And then from the pipeline, it's basically, we just poke it and then it goes to Arbitrum. We poke it, it goes to base. Like it's very, very elegant in that sense. Like our engineers did a very, very great job in doing so.
When is this product going to get released? It sounds like it's close.
It is very close. Soon TM, but like I would say 1 month or so.
Drop the name.
Zircuit.finance.
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 Oh, I'll be the first one to test it. Great. Thank you for answering some of my dumb questions about Zircuit.
Oh, my pleasure.
I very excited to check out Zircuit, very excited to check out Zircuit.finance, the cross-chain yield aggregator app. You've made it to the last section. Martinet, thank you so much for spending time with me here today in the Gloria outlets in Taoyuan. Did you have any last remarks before we close this interview off?
I think we're entering a new era of blockchain in the sense of like decentralized world and the centralized world are kind of merging together. So literally yesterday and 2 days ago, I was at this RWA conference with a bunch of banks talking about blockchain. And these are not just like experimental, well, they are experimental, like the Bank of Taiwan are experimenting tokenizing gold.
Right.
Like they have that already, and they are actually using EVM. I didn't know that. I thought they're
That's
gonna,
amazing, honestly.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like I thought they're using Hyperledger or whatever, but they're actually using EVM. They seem to have like the technical capability and really interested in these. Obviously, legal kind of stuff will kind of take some time, right? But I think we're heading into the direction of like us in the full decentralized world, we also get interested in RWAs.
Right.
Which is, if you think about it, is
real world assets.
Real world assets. And then if you think about it, is taking our money from the chain to off chain and then make some yields. And then at the same time, like these folks from the banks, they're thinking of like taking their assets from the off-chain and tokenize it on-chain. So it's kind of like merging together. We're kind of like in this state. Zircuit itself and also the vision of Zircuit Finance and Zircuit L2 is basically providing these guardrails for people, like normal people, grandmas, institutions. They want additional security, basically. And so these are kind of like the things we want to offer them and help, not just offer them. Like this is my way of thinking how to promote decentralization as well. Because you need to provide them guardrails so that they're willing to try this out. And then once they're familiar with all these things, then they may decide to like go fully decentralized.
Full degen.
Like I come from an educational background, so I know that these like initial steps are very, very important.
I see.
You need to make them feel safe so that they take the initial step.
I see.
That's also like how you trick your kids into doing stuff, right? Yeah, like, oh, you're totally safe. No worries, like try it out. So that is basically Zircuit is making everyone feel safe and then they try things out. Maybe they stay in this, which is also great, but also even if they do not stay, I think we are contributing to the overall decentralization world. So this is what Zircuit is about.
And how can people reach out to you on social media?
My Twitter is Martinet Lee. Follow me on Twitter and then DM me there.
Okay, I'm gonna do one last question.
Yes, sir.
This is a new one that I haven't asked other people before, but what does sovereignty mean to you?
Oh, sovereignty. Oh, that's a deep one. I think digital sovereignty, for me, right now, we're not there yet.
Okay.
We're in the process of getting all of the folks more freedom so that we get there.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and because like we're all intertwined together. So unless everyone is using, these cryptocurrencies in one way or the other, and they are able to use the wallets, etc., then everyone have the way out of the system. Then I think we have the digital sovereignty, because that is, I think that kind of like goes back to my initial idea of like, then we become sort of a threat to the centralized organization, and the centralized organization will be bound to do us good. And I think digital sovereignty basically is like become that force that they do fear, they do feel threat, and then they do feel obliged to serve the people instead of like exploiting us. And I think that is what digital sovereignty Yes.
Love that answer. All right, thank you so much for doing the interview today.
Thank you.
Signing out, this guy's gonna take a train back to his home. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you.
Peace.
You.